Well, hey there, book lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Young Adult Edition. Today, we are talking all about creating unique retellings, and we may or may not have an extra special guest with us today. Her name is A.G. Howard. She is the author of Splintered and Roseblood and her upcoming new release, Stain. We're super excited to hang out with her today, and if you've got questions for her, go ahead and drop those down below. But first, we are going to jump in with a little bit of book world news and some new releases today. Before we get started, Elle Beaumont, how are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. You had a big week, didn't you? You actually had a release this week, and you were not here with us last week to talk about it. So today we are going to talk about it as we jump in and talk all about those new releases and some book world news. So real quick, tell us a little bit about your brand new release, Veiled Allurement.
Veiled Allurement is a Cinderella retelling novella, and it is about a goddess who's thrown from the heavens by her two wicked sisters, and she has to acclimate to living amongst the mere mortals. And she meets a wonderful array of characters who help her and try to get her back to the heavens so she can make rights to the wrongs that her sisters have started.
Fantastic. And what did you do to celebrate?
I had sticky buns. I celebrated it with you. Sticky buns are very important to the story. It's a cute little thing in there, and it makes you hungry. So,
and if you guys have not checked out the launch party that is here on Facebook, you can actually go back in the videos, facebook.com/k.m.robinson books, and you can check out everything that we did for Elle's launch party. We had so much fun, and I hope you will take a look at that. And if you're joining us live, today's episode of Young Adult Edition is all about creating unique retellings. We have author A.G. Howard with us. She'll be joining us momentarily as we talk all about how to create unique retellings and how to create those dark, twisted retellings. So if you've got questions, now is a great time to drop those. If you're joining us live, we want to interact with you. If you have questions, if you have comments, hit us up down below. And if you're on the rebroadcast, we still want to hear from you. We're going to be monitoring those comments over the next couple of days and weeks, and we will be getting your answers just as quickly as possible. And if you happen to have something that is just so good, but we didn't get answered on air, we might just be able to get A.G. Howard to come back and hang out with us and answer a couple more questions. I'm just saying. So we've got a lot of really cool, fabulous things going on today, and we've got some interesting things happening in the book world today. We know that Crescent City Publishing has opened up their anthologies. So they've got 3 of them for 2019. If you are a fan of circuses, steampunk, or cyberpunk, we've got the anthologies for you. You can actually go to anthologies.crescentcitypublishing.com for more information on how to get involved with those. They're open call submissions, and we would love to see you there. The last couple of anthologies that was done by Crescent City Publishing hit some major bestseller stuff on Amazon, so you should check it out. Lots and lots of fun, and we would love for you guys to get involved with that as well. Elle, I know you've got a little bit about the book world stuff today, too. What's going on in book world news?
Okay, so I've never actually read the book, but it's been on my to-be-read list, which is ever-growing. But Mortal Engines is actually being made into a movie, which comes out the 14th, I believe. And I'm kind of excited about that. It takes place in like the post-apocalyptic world, and where London is kind of like the head of this evil organization. And the main character is this strong girl who is really trying to just make a difference. And I'm really excited about that. If any of you guys have read the book or want to see the movie, let me know. I don't really know much about the book aside from like the synopsis. But it sounded really, really awesome, and I can't wait to see it personally and read it. I'd prefer to read it first.
It's always one of those fun things, like, do I read the book? Do I watch the movie? How's it going to be comparatively? So lots of fun there. Julie Sullivan is with us. She's saying, congratulations, Elle, on your book release. And Connie says she has her Cheerios, and she's so excited for today's episode. If you're joining us live, we want to hear from you. Drop us a comment. Let us know, what is your favorite retelling? We do have a couple of really cool releases this week. Let me pull this up so you guys can check that out. We know that Veiled Allurement by Elle Beaumont just came out. A couple of other things coming out this week as well. And then in not too many days, because we actually get a little bit of a buffer here for those of us that are hosts, we actually get more than 1 week promoting our book for new releases. We know my Hansel and Gretel Dark Twisted Retelling Sugar Coated comes out in early December. I cannot wait for you guys to check this one out yet. And if you have not checked out the Chocolate Factory tour that we recently did and released a video on, that is now up and available. You can see chocolate being made, all in honor of the candy house in Hansel and Gretel's story. So we're super excited for that. I hope you will check that out. Amber Duel is in the house. Good morning. Good morning. We're super excited to see all of you. We're talking all about creating unique retellings today. And now that we've kind of gotten through our book world news, we've kind of talked about our new releases, we are going to jump in and talk with author A.G. Howard as we are discussing how to create unique retellings and how to create those dark, twisted retellings. So if you are excited, go ahead and let us know down in the comments below. Beatrice is here. She says, say hi to Brazil. Well, hey, Brazil. Super excited for you guys. A.G. Howard, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, ladies?
So good. It's such a fabulous day, isn't it? We're super excited to have you here. We know that you've got some interesting things coming up. Before we talk about your newest book, we are going to talk a little bit about retellings in general. So before we jump in, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I'm A.G. Howard. I'm the author of the Splintered series, which is a twisted Alice in Wonderland. It's more like a spin-off, actually, I guess, than a retelling. Kind of, a little of both. And also Roseblood, which is also a Phantom of the Opera spin-off. And then upcoming Stain, which is a gothic fairy tale inspired by Princess and the Pea. So that's me.
Fantastic. In the comments, and she says, let the fangirling commence. And Justin is also very excited to be joining us this morning as well. Super excited to see you, Justin, as always. Thanks for showing up and supporting. If you guys have questions for AG, we are going to be taking those today. Go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. We can talk about retellings, and we can talk about her specific books. So whatever you've got, let us know down in those comments below, and we will get those answered for you while we're live on air. And be sure to let us know, what is your favorite retelling? We know all the ladies on screen today have done retellings, big fans of retellings. So we want to talk about the books that we should read or we have read and can maybe fangirl over just a little bit while we're on air. So let us know. Beatrice is super excited to see you. OMG, A.G. Howard, I think my heart will stop right now. I love you.
I love Brazil, by the way. My Brazilian fans are wonderful.
Fantastic. We always love having people from other countries hanging out with us as well. So Brazil, thanks for showing up and representing. All right, we are going to take your questions momentarily. I do see them coming in, but we do want to jump in and talk about creating unique retelling. So how do you go about creating something that's a little bit unique? Because we know these are stories that everybody actually knows. They're stories we're all familiar with. We grew up with these things. How do you create something that is still wholly unique, but still has touches of those originals in there and also isn't the same as what everybody else is rewriting?
Okay. Well, first of all, I read a lot of retellings because, you know, I've talked to some authors. Some authors say that they can't read what they're writing, like the subject about what they're writing, because it gets in their head and they might start putting that into their book. But I'm the opposite. It's like if I read it or watch movies, I like saturate myself with whatever subject I'm working on, because if I do that, my brain, it compartmentalizes and I know the difference between someone else's idea and mine. And so I will know to stay away from those. I'll be like, well, that was already done. No, wait, can't do that. That was already done. So that's one of the ways I make them more original and very unique. I also really love to kind of concentrate on certain elements. Like I like to sort of keep either the atmosphere or the setting very similar to the original. That's how I pay tribute to the book, to the original classic, whatever it was, fairy tale. In like Splintered, you know, I kind of kept Wonderland, but I just made it, I upped the creep factor and I made it be cursed. And so I actually wrote in the Wonderland original book into my book, like the Lewis Carroll series. They used it as a guidebook while they were in Wonderland. So that's sort of how I kind of paid tribute to the original, but I was putting my own stuff in. I twisted the characters, I warped them up so they weren't the same, you know. Everyone's completely different. Like instead of the white rabbit, I have Rabid White. And, you know, he's this little dwarfish creature with antlers. And when the little girl saw him in the shadows, she thought it was a rabbit. So, you know, I twist things up like that. And with Roseblood, I'm trying to think, I like, if you notice, if you've read both, you know that my voice is a little different in each one. Like there's a lot more riddles and whimsy in my Splintered books. And then with the Roseblood, it's much more dramatic. And it has that same feel from the Roseblood book. So I kind of try to retain certain aspects that will kind of give it that flavor. And I take certain elements that people can relate to, that know that whatever the elements made that series famous or whatever, you know, and I try to keep those elements because it's kind of universal and everyone can relate. And then I go from there and I build my world around it. Long answer for short question, but that's how I do it.
That's important, though. I feel like that is one of those things for me as well. I really like kind of saturating myself in what I'm doing and then compartmentalizing that. I feel like that's a great way for people who are jumping into the world of retellings to actually know about doing that. So do you have any specific places that you look when you're trying to get inspiration, or when you are writing your story? Is there somewhere that you kind of like, do you go to the movies a lot? Do you watch TV a lot? Do you pick up all these books, or do you have things, or is it different every time?
Yeah, it's everything. It's movies and books, music. I'll look online at pictures. You know, I'm very visual, so I'm very inspired by things I see. So that's why movies for me are really, really helpful. And like you probably can tell by my writing, but I am a huge Tim Burton fan. I just love his stuff. So, you know, anything like that. And like when I was writing Splintered, the whole way I got the idea was I was at the Tim Burton Disney version. I don't remember, when did that come out? Was it like 2008 or something? 2009 maybe? Do you guys so anyway, I was watching that one, and that's how I got the idea.
That's so awesome. I love that. Yeah. Elle, I know that I talk a lot. If you have questions, just jump in here. But
no, because if I talk, I'm kind of letting you have this, because if I talk, it's just going to turn into like gushing, like, oh my gosh.
We're just going to do a little time out, and I want to explain to you what's going on today. So a couple of months ago, our lovely co-host Elle was gushing over A.G. Howard's books, as she frequently does. If you have not seen the show, it's like every other episode, there's at least one reference. Not even kidding. And A.G. Howard had done something online, and Elle had come to me and said something about really, really just adoring her. Aww. And so I emailed A.G. and I reached out to her and said, hey, listen, my co-host is your biggest fangirl. And if you challenge that, feel free to leave that down in the comments. And I invited her on the show, and she was kind enough to come on the show, and we surprised Elle with her. Aww. And did cry when we let her know that AG was coming on the show. And so Elle is just having a little fangirl moment right now, and she will continue fangirl moment.
I am. My face is so red because like I'm just kind of like blushing and like gushing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream come true.
Well, you look beautiful. You're beaming.
Oh, I know, like I'm glowing, and it's all because like I'm like this. Like
you just made my whole week. My whole week now. It was my day earlier. Now it's my week. Yeah.
So much love going on, and we know you've got questions about AG's series as well. So drop those down below. We'll get those answered when Elle is fangirling and gushing in a few minutes. But let's get back to talking about retellings, because so much fun. I love retellings. You guys know we all love retellings here. And I do see that we've got a lot of questions coming in. Amber wants to know, how do you decide what story you want to retell?
Oh, that's a good one. You know what? It just, something visual will impact me. It's always visual. It's like I said with the Splintered one, that was my first retelling. Splintered was the first retelling I ever did. Before that, I had written straight up adult fantasy, just tons of fantasy that never got published yet. Hopefully one day will. But I will see something, and it, like with Splintered, I saw the movie, the Alice in Wonderland movie. And then with Roseblood, it's weird because like sometimes when I'm surfing the net, I'll see something, and I was looking up just gothic, Phantom of the Opera type pictures, and this picture came up of this girl, and she was holding, I don't even know why it popped up when I was doing Phantom of the Opera, but she was holding a rose, and it was like she was bleeding, but you couldn't tell if it was her bleeding or the rose bleeding. And I was like, ooh, rose Blood. And it just came together in my head like that. And I was like, oh, I love the way those sound together. Because sometimes with my muse too, if I hear something that two different words that really shouldn't be together, but for some reason they sound really good, I latch onto it. And so I had the title for a book. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write a book called Roseblood. And since I was surfing for Phantom of the Opera, I was like, that would fit perfectly. I need to make it a school. Oh, okay. And then there can be a girl that goes there. And it's actually the opera house where he used to haunt. And there's something in the bowels of the opera house that's still haunting it. And it just, that's how it happened. And it just snowballed. So it's usually, though with me, it really is usually something visual that triggers it. And with Stain, it was the same kind of deal. I was Googling like fairy tales and stuff, and Gothic fairy tales, and came up with this picture, and it was this girl all in white, and she had silver hair, and she had thorns, a crown of thorns around her head. And I was like, what? And then it reminded me, because I had years before in a writing class written a short story, a 2,000-word short story, turning the Princess and the Pea on its head to where the girl had to be super tough instead of super delicate. And she had to lay on a bed of nails at the end. And I was like, oh my gosh, it just reminded me of it. I remembered it. So I was like, I'm going to write that now, because I always wanted to grow that into a whole novel. So that's how so you know what? I don't go in and just look through lists of fairy tales. It's sort of more visual with me. I kind of just Google stuff and something hits me and I'm like, everybody's different. That's my weird way.
So do you spend a lot of time on Pinterest? Because I feel like, yeah.
You should see my Pinterest. I don't know if you've seen my Pinterest boards, but they are crazy. I have a ton. And I have a board for every book, you know. I'm going to reveal Stain's board really soon. I haven't revealed it yet. It's still secret. But I'll reveal it soon. Do something fun like a giveaway or something.
That's so much fun. So guys, stay tuned, because AJ will be revealing that board soon. Super excited to see that. And if you're a fan of Pinterest, let us know. I love Pinterest. We want to give a little shout out down below. So if you have Pinterest, if you're a Pinterest fiend, let us know in those comments below. And what's your favorite thing to search on Pinterest? Just let us know. Let us know down there.
That's a rabbit hole I can't go down.
I know, right? I have to like set aside, like when I'm researching or something, I'll set aside like a couple of days. This is when I'm gonna fill up my Pinterest board today. And I do it. I spend the whole day. And then, you know, every once in a while I'll find something as I'm writing and I can just shuffle it over there. But I've already given myself that fix of, okay, I've already done it. So I don't have to spend hours over there now. I can just shuffle this over there. So that's how you have to trick yourself.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's about right too. Like a day for Pinterest, not like an hour, like a day.
I love that place.
Okay, so I'm just saying, because I feel like this would be so much fun. We're going to take a day for a bunch of authors. Like, we'll all do it. We'll get some fabulous people with us, and we'll have a Pinterest day, and we'll just get into like a Facebook chat or something, and we'll all just talk about the pins that we're finding.
Oh, what a great idea. Oh, that would be a blast. Yes, that would be so fun.
Give them to our fans. Okay, this is actually going to be an event. We're going to do this. If you are one of the authors joining us, and I know we do have a lot of them here, if you want to jump on board with this, we are going to make this happen. And we'll do a Pinterest day. We'll hang out behind the scenes, and then we'll do this big unveiling of the Pinterest boards to all of our fans. Let us know if you want to get involved. So I have to ask, because we're talking about being very visual and very creative. Are you like a crafty person? Do you do stuff outside of your writing that's very creative, or are you kind of solely writing?
That's so funny you asked that. Okay, so I've always been creative, and it's funny because I didn't even realize it. I just kind of morphed into this. When I was young, people used to ask me, how did you become a writer? I was like, when I was young, I used to babysit I was 13 years old, and I was babysitting kids for money. And I would cut out characters, and I had a felt board, and I would sit there and, I'd color my characters in and stuff, and I would tell stories with these characters to the kids. So already I was a storyteller and didn't even know it. But I also love to create. Now, I'm terrible at art. I think I could be good at it. I just need to put the time in. But I'm great at graphic art. I'm talking, I can't sketch, but man, you give me some graphics to play with and I can make something happen. That's just my thing, But before all of that, before I discovered any of that, I used to decorate cakes. the pretty roses, and I would paint on them. You know, I had this way of making stencils, and I would stencil on them, and I made some fabulous cakes. I used to actually get paid for it. I had, I think it was called Anita's Creative Confections, I think is what I called my business. But, and then I also did a lot of sewing for my daughter, who's now like 26 years old. But I used to sew for her all the time when she was little, and I loved to make pretty little dresses for her. And I won in the county fair. I won best of show for a little princess dress I made her. So
That is adorable.
So I'm so creative. And what's funny, though, is I used to love to do all this stuff, but then I discovered writing. And the moment I discovered writing, it was like, oh, boy, all that other stuff. This is it. This is what I love. So then, you know, so sometimes I'll write stuff about fashion designers in my book or something, because I kind of used to want to be a fashion designer. You'll probably see me someday write something about a baker. But, you know, I can integrate that into my stories and get those passions and all that still out without actually having to do it and make the mess, you know? So I think it just kind of brought everything together that I loved, and I could put it in my own words. So I am creative, though. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Beatrice is in the comments, and she is saying that you have the best Pinterest ever. So yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And Julie is totally down for Pinterest Day. And
Yay.
Connie says that Pinterest is like her new religion.
Yeah.
Bethany is also here. She says you've got the best Pinterest board. So
Hi, Bethany. She's my best pal in the world. That's my best friend. Hi, Bethany.
wonderful friends show up, and fabulous people are here hanging out with us. And speaking of all the fabulous people here hanging out with us, we actually want to chat with you guys for just a minute. If you've got questions, we want to hear from you. Drop those down in the comments below. But if you are having fun today, if this is interesting, if this is helpful to you, we need a favor. We need you to jump down and hit the share button, because when you hit the share button, that actually tells Facebook that we're doing something awesome and that they should be sharing this video with more people while we're live on air or the rebroadcast later on. And when Facebook sends this out to more people, that means more people are watching the show. We can talk more about A.G. Howard's fabulous stories. We can get her back on. I'm just saying. We can get other fabulous authors to come join us as well. So you are not only helping me, but you're also helping Elle, you're helping AG, and you're helping all of the authors who are here hanging out with us on Facebook's live broadcasts. And we do have some incredible events coming up in the next couple of weeks, especially because Christmas is just a few weeks away. We've got some major things happening. Elle is very excited about her background.
I love her background. Doesn't everybody love her background?
Isn't it amazing? I feel like such a slacker because she has usually she's got her Kraken behind her, but she's got this Merry Christmas one she's been using for a couple weeks, and I'm like, I haven't changed.
I like yours too, though. Yours tells so many stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're going with. But when you hit that share button for us, that helps Facebook to know that we're doing something awesome. And that means we can do more fabulous things and have more fabulous authors on. So help a girl out, click the share button, and we'll do more fabulous things on Young Adult Edition and the other things I do on my author platform as well. Okay, so before we transition into talking specifically about your books and watching Elle melt into a puddle, know, why do you lean more toward the dark side of retellings, and why do you feel like people are drawn to dark retellings as opposed to the light and fluffy things?
Okay, well, I think like with the dark stuff, we're always seeing images of terrorism and war scenes and, you know, just really dark things all the time anyway. And I think that's why we're drawn. Well, like Brothers Grimm is actually really more popular than just regular fairy tales. We want the darker stuff. And I think that's partly because of our own lives. And it caters to the idea that real life isn't pretty, so why should fairy tales be? You know what I mean? And I do think also, like, especially like when I was writing Splintered, one of the things that kind of drew me to the darker side was that's what I loved about the book. That's my own personal, you know, I don't know, I'm weird like that. And I'm partly geared like that because of, like I was talking about earlier, Tim Burton. And that might have been behind the scenes. So they're like, what? She wasn't talking about that earlier. I think that was behind the scenes with you guys. But I grew up watching like Tim Burton. My favorite fairy tale of all time, the one that just imprinted on my brain, is Edward Scissorhands. So I am drawn to darkness. And I think a lot of other people are too, though, because I think that we want to know, You know, we want to see someone claw themselves out of even maybe a darker place than we're in. And even if they can't have a happy ever after, they can have a satisfactory, you know, satisfactory ever after or something. So I think that's why. That's what I feel like is why. Yeah.
All right. If you've got questions about creating retellings, how to be unique when you are creating retellings, or why we love dark retellings so much, go ahead and drop those down below. But we are going to be answering some of your questions now, and then Elle is going to fangirl. So here we go.
Get ready.
And we will get a couple of these answered for you. So let me see. Amber says that she might need your new book. Oh no, she has a mighty need for your new book, Grabby Hands.
Nice fitty.
Ooh, that is so pretty. We're gonna take a closer look at that in just a few minutes.
Your books are always gorgeous.
Oh, I know. I have the best artist in the world. That's why.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
So we're gonna take a closer look at that in a few minutes. But if you've got questions, we might just be able to answer a couple of those because your new book is coming out in January.
Yeah, yeah,
right around
January 15th. Yeah.
I mean, we have to be nice and we have to not ask her too many questions that she can't answer, but you could try. You're welcome to try. We'll see what we can get out of her. Let's see. Julie would like to know, what is your favorite thing about writing retellings?
Oh, wow. I think my favorite thing is knowing that universally it's going to be relatable already before I even have to do anything. Do you know what I mean? Because it's already out in culture. It's out there even beyond our own, even beyond the US. You know, we share these fairy tales and it's sort of a universal thing that brings us together. And I know that I can ride that wave and make it more relatable because of that.
Fantastic. Beatrice would like to know, do you have a favorite character or a favorite book out of your own books?
Oh, out of my own books. Oh my gosh. I have to say Morpheus because if I don't say Morpheus, he'll be mad at me. He'll be angry.
Yes.
Morpheus. Even though he's a brat.
We're totally clipping this and putting it on Instagram. I'm just saying. Let's see. Kind of answered that one. Let's go with this one. Is Alice in Wonderland your favorite fairy tale? And is that why it's the first story in your series?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite fairy tale because I have too many. So it's hard for me to just whittle it down to one. But I think that one of the reasons it's my first book, well, one of the big reasons it's my first book is it was my first YA I ever wrote. You know, it was when I realized, oh, I think I can write YA. I was working at a middle school library and I was reading the young adult coming in and I was like, oh my gosh, I have the voice for this. I realized it. And it was like an epiphany. And that was right around the time I went and saw the Tim Burton movie. So it just all fell into place that that would be the first one. Also, when I was younger, I can remember when I was around, I don't know, 12 or so, maybe 13, I was reading Alice in Wonderland. And I remember how much I loved that world and that escape, you know, into another world, actually going through a portal somewhere else. So I think that's part of the draw of it too for me, why it was my first one, because I always wanted to do that and have a portal book like that.
Love it. Beatrice wants to know, Team Morpheus or Team Jeb? And let's direct this to everybody. Go ahead and let us know in the comments below. I'm just saying.
Hearing, Mama can't choose a favorite in her chillings. So,
but I can. But I can.
Plenty of people can, but I'm not doing it. I told someone that one time. I'm like, Mama doesn't do that. She loves all of her children the same. Someone earlier asked me what my favorite character was of all my books. That's a little different. Yeah. But I can't choose between my two guys.
Elle can though, and she's very vocal about it.
Oh, I am.
I can tell.
I'm very vocal about
I'm thinking you're a Morpheus girl, right? You're a Morpheus girl, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to say his fanship is a bit bigger. I don't know if they're bigger or they're more vocal, or it could be both.
I think they're probably more vocal because they are his fans.
Exactly.
Like, it goes hand in hand.
You radiate that same, charm and
exactly
boisterousness. Yes.
I have a group of elite fans and we have a conversation going, and they talk about Morpheus all of the time, like it's nonstop. Pretty fun.
I have to say, he's the first character that ever came to me basically on the page and said, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I'm ready. Write me something. He was already there. He was already born. He was alive. He was in my head. I could hear him. And it's funny because like when I write his lines and stuff, I know if I blush or laugh, I'm keeping that line. And that's a lot. That's a lot. He gets to keep most of his lines.
I have to ask them, is he a bit of a bully? Because I know for me as an author, I have some characters that come in and they're just like, you're doing it my way.
Yeah.
Does he kind of like take over and just kind of kick you to the side?
He does. I mean, and like I'm sure if you've read the series, you know that he kind of takes over every scene he's in. So the hardest part for me was like, rein it in, Morpheus, rein it in. So yeah, he made me work, man, because he did. He did. He takes over.
I love it. Love it. Jessica in the comments, she says, I love that your books always have colored text.
Aw, thank you. That's not even my doing. That's my publisher. They decided to do that with Splintered. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited because the only book I had ever seen before that, I think, was the Shiver series by Maggie Stiefvater. Did I say her name right? I never know if I'm saying her name right. She's got a beautiful name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she had the what did I call it? This now I blanked on the name of the series, but it's the Shiver series, the one about the wolves, and they're all different text colors. So unfortunately, they didn't do it with Stain because Stain is in like a gray, like a grayscale kind of, and I think they did that because for one, it's super long. It's like 518 pages. It's the fattest thing I've ever written. See? Super big. And also because, you know, it's sort of written in the medieval, it's sort of an alternate medieval era. And so they thought that the black and white would look really good, make it more antique-y like. And I agree. I mean, I think that was a good choice. But it's interesting how much goes into those choices, you know, what they're going to do with the font and stuff. How much thought they put in.
It really is. I love interior work on books and how people are designing the chapter headers and different headers and all of that. It's just so important to books. Danielle is with us. She is joining us a little bit late, and she says, have you ever retold the same story more than once?
Ooh, what a great question. Well, the only one I can think of would be The Princess and the Pea thing that I did because I did the short story and then the long version. But that's the only one I can think of. Have you guys? I'm interested because I know you both write retellings.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I have so many different ideas for several of the stories that I've retold, and I have to keep myself in check because I've already written Goldilocks and I've already written all of these different things, and I probably shouldn't do the second version of them until I'm done with all the other ones, but I really want to. So it's something I have to keep myself in check with because I have ideas.
Yeah, right? You have your little idea file.
Oh, I do. I certainly do. Like I have, like, honest to goodness, a Google Doc, and I just have like all my ideas written down, like, you know, bullet points, like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is what I'm gonna do. But to answer the question, I have not reused any ideas because there's so many. Like I don't have enough time.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like once you've done that one, it's like, I want to do something new now. I mean, there's that muse, you know, your muse wants a challenge, you know?
Okay, so are you one of those people that has just so many ideas and you're never going to get through them? Or do you kind of have to fight for your ideas?
I have so many, there's no way it's ever going to. So like like Belle, when I open up my thing, I'm like, okay, don't look at that one. Don't look at that one. Go down to the one you came here for.
Yes.
And I'm always adding.
How do you keep your notes? Do you do it in like a Google Doc? Do you do it on your phone like me? Like, where do you keep your ideas?
They are in a Google Doc. And it's funny because when I start a book, I have a research and synopsis document. And that's the one where I put everything from pictures, you know, even though I have Pinterest boards, there's certain pictures that are more important that actually spark something special that I need to have in that file. There's the synopsis, sort of just a skeletal because I'm very organic and I'm kind of a pantster, but I need to know point A, point B, point C. And then I put the meat on my skeleton later on. And so it's really skeletal, but I have a little synopsis, and then I have my character list, what they look like, headshots, you know, because I'm visual, I got to see these people. And I wish I could give you, I wonder if I can, without messing up my camera, I would show you my, okay, we're turning the camera. Can you see my bulletin board?
Ooh,
yes.
Oh, I'm not very good at guiding it. Yeah, I'm never going to get it back on again. Watch this. Ah, am I on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Sort of. Anyway, I have a bulletin board and I put like my headshots, my characters, faces. If there's animals in the book, animals go up there. I do that too. So that's another way I do my information. So I have like the stuff right here in front of me, right next to my desk that I can look at and that will spark things. Then I have my stuff in my file. Then I have my Pinterest board. So it's sort of everywhere, but I do have that one central document that keeps it all together for me.
Fantastic. Bridget, just a tiny bit, I would like to know how you handle deadlines.
I cry. No. I'm gonna call my agent and I say I'm gonna need 6 extra weeks. It's funny because when I started writing, I rewrote my first novel 12 times. I'm not exaggerating, because at that time I was a mom. I was staying home with my kids. I taught myself to write by reading writing books. And so, and I have, if you're a writer and you want a good list of writing books, mine may be more dated because this is a while back, but I have a list on my website. Go to my website and it says AG's Library or something like that. And it has a list of my books that I used to learn to write. And every time I would learn something new, I would weave it into this manuscript. I never scrapped it. I just kept weaving, changing. And because I did that, I learned how to edit really well. So, and I was always putting myself on deadlines. I have to have such and such done by such and such. So I guess I kind of trained myself to work to a deadline before I even had like a contract ever. So I usually am pretty good with contracts, but there are, there's times that even when like with Ensnared is a good example. My mother passed away while I was writing Ensnared. And I got an extension because of that. But I was able to keep working through it because it was very cathartic for me. It actually helped me get those feelings onto the page and out, so I could work through them. Anyone who's read Ensnared might know that it's kind of an emotional read, and that's why. You might not know that, but that's behind the scenes of why it's that way. But I think because from the very beginning, before I was ever contracted, I learned to write to deadlines. It helps me, but they still really scare me. They do. They terrify me. And sometimes I wait till the last minute and I'm like up all hours of the night trying to get it done for 2 weeks, So.
That's amazing. Now, typically we get this question, and we might actually have it up higher. I haven't looked yet. But how long does it typically take you to write a book? Are you very fast? Are you a little bit on the slower side? Where do you kind of fall on that scale?
I consider myself slow. I mean, it feels like it's taking forever, right? While I'm doing it. But I actually can write a book, usually within 6 months actual writing, I can write it. But it takes, a month before that. I want to research and really get the rhythm and the feel and know the characters and stuff. So with Stain, I had actually told them, because Stain is epic fantasy. I mean, this has world building out the wazoo. And I told my publisher I need a full year for this book, because I need all the research. I need to build this world, and it's going to take a long time. So I told them from the beginning, and then I end up with a 518-page mammoth. But that one took me a year. So, but I've also, now that I'm published, it's harder. It takes me more like 9 months to write a book than 6, because I'm also doing social stuff all the time, social media. And I don't even do it as much as I should, but I'm doing it, and so that gets in the way of the writing. You have to like set aside a little window in the morning, get in there and do your whatever, do your social media. Then you got to make yourself go right. And it's just a hard juggling act. So it does take a little longer now, but in the beginning, 6 months usually.
Fantastic. And that actually brings me to a great question. Do you have a routine for your writing?
Oh, not really. It's funny. Well, the first thing I do usually is I will get up. If I'm really close to my deadline, I won't even open my email. I won't do social media. I'm in a tunnel, right? But for my daily routine, when I'm just easily writing a book, I'll usually write about 500 to 1,000 words a day. That's not a huge block, but it's a nice block, and you're chipping away at it. And then that gives me time to, I'll get online, I'll do a little social media in the morning, maybe check my emails in the afternoon, you know, do a little writing between that. And then the biggest block of my writing comes in at night. And I usually write from the evening, you know, like after dinner, and then I'll write like until 1 or 2. So I write really late. That's when my muse starts going, wee, it's time to work. It gets excited for some reason. I think that also was conditioned in me because when I first started, my kids were teeny tiny, and I had to have everyone in bed before I could fully invest myself into my story and escape. And so I think that kind of conditioned me to be a little bit of a night owl writer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of love in the comments for Morpheus, who is apparently husband to some of the people who are hanging out with us.
Yes. Some of them have married him, yes.
Yes. I think Elle's one of them. I don't think she's going to share. I'm just saying.
I'm not sharing.
Beatrice,
Morpheus would say there's enough to go around, but as you know, he would. Melissa might not agree, though. She'd be like, nah.
This is actually a great question. Beatrice would like to know, are you thinking of making another book series? And I know you've actually got some interesting things going on in your writer life. Can you give us just a tiny little hint?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward vampires a little bit. Vampires are so fascinating to me. So I might do something in that arena. We'll see. That's where my brain is at right now. We'll see what comes of it.
Might be able to get AG back when she has a little bit more information to kind of things
absolutely.
To stay tuned. Justin is here, and he wants to know, have you ever considered signing over your books for something like maybe a Netflix series or movies?
Yeah, I would love that. And the thing about writing is there are so many books and so many movies that you just hope you get a chance to get in the door. So, you know, right now we have a producer that's interested, but we still have to find, you know, the actual production company. So we'll wait and see what happens. Splintered is out there. We're trying, but we can only try. That's all we can do from our end. We have to hope someone wants it and sees the same vision for it.
So I feel like I'm just going to toss this out here, guys. If this is something you do want to see, the best thing you can do is to make some noise on social media.
That's true.
Be tagging people, be getting the fans excited for this, because we know that fans can actually make this a reality. So if you want to help us out, make some noise about the books you want to see turned into movies or TV series. Lots of love for the vampires down in the comments. Jess also says, I think a lot of writing muses are nocturnal. I feel like, I don't know about you ladies, but for me, like I can write all day, I can do whatever, and then I'll go to bed and I'll pretend to sleep, and all of a sudden all the ideas, right? Is that something you guys
Yes. I keep a tablet, like a spiral, little tiny mini one by my bed in case I have an idea and I just don't want to get up. I got it right there. I can write it down, go back to sleep. Of course, I've woken up and looked at it and it's chicken scribbles, you know, it's chicken scratching, and I can't even read what was I thinking? I can't get it back. Probably a recorder would be better, right?
Yes. I keep my phone right next to me, so I write things down. I like the voice thing. Like, that'd be good for waking up puppies, you know?
I can't. My husband be like, who are you talking to?
I know. No, but they're married to writers. They should expect this. It's like, dude, do you know who you married?
Right. But like, I'll wake up and I'll like write down something in my notes because I'm like, I can't. It will end up being fragmented in the middle of
it. I think I read somewhere, and this is when I was first starting to write, and I had read somewhere, you either have to repeat it like over and over in your mind for a full minute, or you have to write it down somewhere, because otherwise it's going to be lost. Yeah. So you don't have time to sit there and repeat it in your head, and when I'm sleepy, it's not going to be repeated. So I write it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Writing things down, always a good thing.
Yes.
Beatrice would like to know, how do you choose your book titles?
It's interesting. Yeah, I have kept every single title has been my own. I have never had to argue with an editor about my titles. With Splintered, it's interesting because I originally thought about calling it Through the Splintered Glass. And then I started thinking, you know, but that's too wordy. And I mean, it would have worked, but I felt like all of a sudden I was just like splintered, because the Wonderland is splintered and warped and strange. Yes, she walks through a splintered glass, and it just started to feel like it fit. And so I just slapped it on there, and it was like splintered. And that's how I came up with that one. Unhinged and snared. And snared was interesting because we had a hard time with that one. I came up with unhinged on my own. It was easy. It fit into her mind coming unglued or whatever. But the ensnared one, I think at first we were going to call it unleashed. And I think it was my agent. I'm not 100% sure, but I think my agent said something like, that sounds like a dog book. Like, oh. So I said, okay. And then I brainstormed. I think it was with my son one time on a trip we were taking. He's always really good about brainstorming with me. And he's like, how about, you know, he gave me a bunch of different words, and ensnared was one of them. And I was like, ew, okay, I like that one. So that was the one we sent in with it. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. And like, you know how I came with Roseblood. I told you that story earlier. And with Stain, I came up with Stain because her face is stained, and you find out why throughout the book. You know, I'm not going to give that away, and she's scarred, and she's not your typical princess. And so, in fact, interesting tidbit, when I was writing her, the character's name is Lyra because she has a musical voice, a songbird voice. But when I was writing her character, all I kept seeing was 11 from Stranger Things. And I was like, oh my gosh, my little princess is going to be bald. And she was. In the book, it's written in. She's bald for the longest time. And, you know, just sheared. Her head is just sheared. And so, but with Stain, yeah, it was just basically, and her aunt calls her a stain on the royal family name. And so, boom, Stain. So that's how I came up with all those. And I've just been lucky I've been able to keep them all, because not everybody can, you know. Sometimes they'll fight with you.
That is true. It is a fun process working with publishers. And if you have questions, we've actually had some incredible publishers and agents and fabulous people on the show. You can go back and watch some of those episodes as well if you would like to learn a little bit more about the process of working with a publisher or an agent. And if you've got questions, or if you happen to be someone who would like to come on the show and discuss these things with us, especially if you are an agent or a publisher, we would love to have you. Drop us a comment or drop us a DM, or tag the person you would like to see on the show, and we will reach out to them and see if we can get them on to have a conversation with us here on Young Adult Edition. Amber would like to know, was Splinter the book that got you an agent?
No, actually. I've had 2 agents, and that's a great question. My first agent signed me for my book that I actually indie published, and it's called The Architect of Song, and it's with my new adult stuff. And I actually didn't indie publish that until after I already established myself as a writer with the Splintered series. But I signed for that book. And the first agent, she really loved the romance aspect of it and all of that. And so she tried to sell it as a straight up category romance or single title romance. And I kept telling her I feel like it's more literary than that, because it is. It has a lot of literary elements, very character driven. And it is, if you like Jane Eyre, you would love this book. So the whole series probably. But anyway, so that was the one she signed me for. That agent kept trying and trying and trying to sell it. As she was trying to sell it, I was writing other books for that series because I wanted to make it a series. And I wrote 3 books while I was with her. And she kept, actually my own agent was turning down my books. When I would turn them into her, she'd be like, I don't know how to sell that. I don't know how to sell that. You know, this one isn't as romancy as the other one. And blah, blah, blah. You know, there was differences, minute differences in them that she didn't think she could sell them like she was trying to sell this one. And she wasn't even being able to sell this one because we kept hearing the same stuff that I knew we were going to hear. And there's actually a really interesting article that I did on this. And I could give you the link later maybe. And somehow you guys could, or maybe I can go visit the
We will drop it in the comments down below after the show, guys.
Perfect. So anyway, if you want to hear about that whole, you know, time of my life when I was going through that, it's really fascinating to see how kind of it shaped me as a writer, because I realized what I would and would not change about my stuff. I was like, no, you know, what I would not compromise on. But anyway, so what happened is I told her, okay, well, she was about to start representing YA when I got my YA idea for Splintered. And so I told her, I have this great YA idea. And I told it to her, and she's like, oh my gosh, yes. And she was so excited. So I wrote the whole thing. And she comes back to me, reads it, and said, if you'll take out the part where she goes into Wonderland and make it completely contemporary, no fantasy at all. And I said, we're going to have to break up. I called her, I think it was the day before Christmas. And I mean, it was so sad because we were such good friends, and she's so sweet. And to this day, I adore her. But she didn't know how to sell my stuff, and we had different visions for my career. So that was my first agent. Then I had several agents that wanted to represent Splintered when I left her. It was scary, guys, because it's like taking a nosedive, you know, because I had an agent, walked away from her, and she said, I have loved everything you've written. I just don't know how to sell you. She actually said that to me, and I was like, oh, it's so frustrating. So sometimes it doesn't work out. It's, you know, it's got to be like a marriage, and you both have to have the same vision for your future, you know, and we didn't. And so then I chose, you know, Jenny Bent is my agent, and she's fantastic, and I love her. And she believed in Splintered, and we went through 23 publishers with Splintered, turning it down before we went to auction. And then we went to auction. I have the weirdest publishing story. You know? I love
it, though. Keep going.
Yeah, man. We just did not give up. Is that working?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I know that little bar back. Is that bar okay? Okay, we're good. My camera started falling. Okay. So I hope that answered that.
Yeah. You did. That was fantastic. Beatrice also would like to know, do you have tips for someone who is just starting writing?
I have a whole page on my website with tips. You should go see it. My website's www.aghoward.com. And I have a whole page dedicated to tips for aspiring or authors, you know, tips for aspiring writers or authors. And I've got it all right there for you. One of my biggest things to say is just never give up. Keep writing. Keep writing, because if I had given up and not kept writing book after book after book, even after I was getting turned down by my own agent, I would never be where I am now. So you just got to keep at it. And you learn while you go.
Well, you've done so much in your author career as well. You are all over the scene in the book world. Bookstagram is covered in your covers.
That's awesome.
Incredible things. I've heard so many good things about you even before I had met you.
Wow, thank you. It was all from Elle, though.
I'm not going to lie. No.
Okay, just to be honest, Elle told me a lot, but my fans rave about you too. Like, you're all over my social media.
That makes me feel good.
Had any introduction to you. So you're doing incredibly well. And had you given up, had you had that stop moment with that agent, had you not pressed forward, had you not kept writing, you wouldn't have accomplished these incredible things. I know we've got a lot of questions. I know we've got a lot of fabulous things. I know that I'm going to ask questions behind the scenes because I love hearing publishing stories. It's going to be lots of fun. But I do want to make sure that we give Elle some time to gush and ask her questions. So I'm going to turn this over to Elle for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to talk all about your upcoming book. So Elle, kind of keep it to your gushing, and then we'll ask her after.
Actually, I did have a question. Mostly because Morpheus in particular, obviously it's all about, you know, dreams and everything. Have you had any things inspired by your dreams that have worked their way inside of any of your books?
That's interesting, because I know that Stephanie Meyer's, right? That's the whole premise of her book. She said her dream was so vivid. I have had some dreams that make me wake up and write stuff down. But at the moment, I couldn't even tell you what they were. I would have to go back and look in my idea file, and I would have written next to it, dreamed this. So I do have some stuff out there, but I don't think it's worked its way in yet. I think it's ideas that I have coming up if I decide to do those. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah. So I do, but it's not like really, like I said, I'm just so visual, and usually that's what clicks something for me.
Absolutely. And I know you also have a lot of playlists too. That you, I mean, I'm a music person too, so I have to listen. And I actually started making playlists in the back of my books too, so that everybody can kind of like, is there one genre over another that really inspires you to?
It's funny because it sort of depends on the book. It's like with my my Stain. I listened to really dark fairy tale music, songs that sounded like they belonged in a fairy tale. You know, I actually have one, I think it's called, and I made this playlist separate from my Stained playlist, but it's called like Dark Dimensions, Fairy Tale Dark Dimensions or something like that. And it's on my, so if you follow me on Spotify, you can get access to all these playlists. And that's one of them that I made, and I just swooped a bunch of really creepy, like dark, or maybe just melancholy kind of songs that felt like they belonged in a fairy tale. And then I took some of those songs and put them into my Stain one that fit even better into my Stain one. And then I'll also do playlists per character. Like I have a Morpheus playlist, a Jeb playlist, an Alyssa playlist. So yeah, it's really depends on the characters. Like Morpheus's playlist is going to sound different than Jeb's. Jeb's is going to sound different than Alyssa's. You know, it's the character. And I'm the same way with my books. It's like each book has its own personality and demands its own music. And so that's sort of how I do it. And I'll just start listening to, like, I already have several books I'm planning to write someday. They already have book, you know, playlists started, because I'll hear a song and I'll go, oh, that definitely feels like that atmosphere. It's like I already have a sense for what the atmosphere is going to be like in that book, and I'm already building that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I build K.m.'s playlists all the time.
Yeah.
I have to ask, because Elle, I've always said, is the queen of creating playlists. She does it for all of my books. She does it for all of everything. Elle, I'm directing this to you. Did you pull this from AG because she does her playlist too? Were you inspired by that, or is that something you did and then she also did it too? Elle, can you hear me?
I don't think she can hear you.
Nope.
No, you just went off the screen.
I know that happened to me earlier.
You're completely blacked out.
Oh,
so
no.
AG is going to have to translate.
Oh, okay. I don't even know how to translate that. She said, have you always done playlists like that? Or is that something you were inspired to by another author, like maybe me? Or have you always been like that?
I've always been like that.
You've always been like that?
Yeah, and actually I created my own Splintered playlist.
Yay! Is it on Spotify or anywhere?
It actually might be on Spotify. I can't remember, but
yeah, I want to hear it.
Because I made my own Malice playlist.
Oh, cool! Madness is the best.
Things
that you have no idea. You have no idea. Like every single time that I can bring up Splintered, whether it's Retelling, Swoony Boyfriend, you know, like it's always like Splintered by A.G. Howard, Splintered by.
Oh my heart.
So AJ, I want you to ask her right now. I know she can't hear me, but there has been something else that she created inspired by your characters. Ask her what it was.
Okay, KM just told me that there has been something else inspired by my characters that you have done. What is it?
I make candles, and I actually made Splintered. I actually made a Morpheus candle, Alyssa candle, and a Jeb candle.
That is so fun.
And after the show, I will get some contact information and I can gift those to you.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. Thank you. I already told them they're both getting the Arcs of Stain, so. You got it
here.
You can take, yeah. But oh, that's so nice. Thank you. So I have to ask, is Morpheus licorice scented?
He is.
Oh.
He's licorice and tobacco.
Ooh, I love it.
Because as I was reading this, I just want to say, Cam, I can actually hear your echo, so I can actually
He knows you're still there. It's floating in space.
But as I was reading it, I'm like, AG, like licorice and tobacco. First of all, tobacco, ew, like, and licorice, I'm not a licorice, black licorice. I'm like,
yeah, oh, I love it.
But I was like, okay, she must know what she's talking about. So I concocted this candle, and oh my gosh, I made it for myself because I'm like, you know, I don't want to get in trouble selling, like, but I don't want to get in trouble, like, you know. So I made this, and I was like, I have to contact her because I don't even know if AG knows what this smells like. Like, come on. It is the most masculine smell, but like sweet at the same time. And I was like, this, if Morpheus smells like this, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like,
Ooh, I can't wait to have this candle.
oh, and it's just like smoky and sweet.
Right.
And oh, this is him with like his blue smoke and everything. And that's actually what I called it, was blue smoke. Like,
oh, great name. That's so good. I'm excited. I love getting presents.
but like I was watching over and I was like, don't let me forget to tell her that I made these candles for her.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. You guys want to know a secret? The way I find people's scents and stuff that I put into books, or if I'm like looking for a scent for a person, I'll go online and I'll either look at candles or I'll look at colognes. And the colognes will sometimes list what's in it and what makes it smell that way. And I'll just take a few of those ingredients and put it into a person. So that's how I do that. But I always try to find something that people would know what it would smell like, you know? So I can't just say a pheromone, you know,
Right,
I have to have an actual scent they can relate to.
Like bergamot, nobody knows what bergamot smells like.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's how I do that. If I'm like stuck and I can't think of one, I'll go online. Thank goodness for online. Oh my goodness.
Right? Like you can ask me because I'm the scent queen. Like honestly.
That is so cool.
I've made Pam's line. I've made Amber's, some of Amber's candles too. And they're like, how did you know? That's what it smells like.
I'm excited. I have someone
Ella.
Go ahead. What? Ask her.
I have to completely trust Elle scents because I'm actually allergic to them. So she has to break them down for me and explain what it is. And I'm like, I don't understand, but I trust you. And my fans love them, so.
She said she has to trust you because she's allergic to a lot of the scents.
Yes, she is. She is. So she's like, I'll take your word for it.
I do. All right. We are getting toward the end of our time right now, so we are going to have to wrap this up. If you have any last-minute questions or comments, drop those down for us below. And if you're on the replay, we still want to hear from you. Let us know your questions and comments, and we will get those answered over the next couple of days and weeks. And we might just be able to convince AJ to come back and hang out with us again if you have something that is so dang good, but we have not answered yet. And before we do wrap this up, AJ, can you tell us a little bit about your new book that is coming out in January?
Yes. Okay, so my new book, I get to hold it up again because it's so pretty, is Stain. And it is a Gothic fairy tale inspired by Princess and the Pea. I say inspired by, I wouldn't exactly call it a retelling. If you've ever read the actual Princess and the Pea retelling, it's like a paragraph. I mean, the actual classic novel, I mean, fairy tale is like a paragraph long. So I had lots of room to play. And I wanted to invent a new world. I wanted to invent new canon for these characters. And so I just let my imagination go crazy. What I stayed consistent with was there's a princess who has to prove herself the true princess. And there are tests she has to do to prove that. And one of them is laying on a bed of nails. And I wanted to juxtapose as far as I didn't want her to have to prove herself worthy of the prince by being delicate. I wanted her to prove herself an equal, and she could rule his land as good as he can. And he comes from a land of thorns. So that's how all that came together. It is up for pre-order right now. And if you pre-order, we have an incentive going on where you get this really beautiful little purple enamel rose pin. And it's actually tied to the story because there are these roses called panacea roses, and they're magical roses, and they're purple in the story. And so we made a pin, and you'll get one of those. And you will also get Alice the Absent, which is the prequel splintered story. It's in Morpheus's point of view. So you want this, and the only way you can get it is with this pre-order. And there's a beautiful cover. Dang it, I meant to print off the cover so I could hold it up, but I didn't. But the cover is gorgeous. You will actually get it's a short story, a short prequel story, and you will actually get the booklet as part of your incentive for pre-ordering Stain. And if you will go to my Instagram, or you can go to my website, and you can click on Stain, and it will take you through the whole thing of how you pre-order it. And then you also have to fill out a form to say that I pre-ordered this. And just, you can give us like either a screenshot of your receipt or the number of the receipt, and then my publisher will make sure you get this set. And I'm also signing a bunch of book plates for these. So you'll have signed book plates to put in your books too. That's the stuff that's coming with the pre-order. So that's me giving props to my pre-order.
Fantastic. Before we wrap up, I do want to know, do you have any last minute advice for people who are looking to write retellings?
My only advice would be maintain your voice. Find a way to maintain your voice and just find certain elements to bring in to make it yours, but yet still keep it, you know, something that people will recognize as that fairy tale. And like I said, this one is so off the beaten path. The really only thing that ties it to The Princess and the Pea is that test at the end that she has to do. But I actually have, I should have said this, I tied a bunch of other fairy tales in here too. I mean, I have tips of the hat to Cinderella because of the stepsisters, you know, she's got step cousins, or she has cousins. And then I have Sleeping Beauty, the kiss, and the kiss from Sleeping Beauty is actually flipped on its head and done a different way. So I have other little fairy tale little tips of the hat in this book. But yeah, that would be my thing, is you just got to try to maintain your voice, but at the same time, pay tribute to it in a way that you can.
Fantastic.
And I also want to say all the best fairy tales have thorns. So keep the darkness in there because it's good.
It is.
That is AG, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
Here, can you let everybody know where to find you?
Yes, and just go ahead and go to my website, www.aghoward.com, and there on the sidebar is a little chessboard with chess pieces, and each chess piece will connect you to where I am online everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's all there. So
Fantastic.
okay.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. I know Elle can't hear me, so she can't say her final goodbyes. Can you
He's
hear me?
wrapping it up, Elle.
Okay.
She said you can say your final goodbyes if you want.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on, AG. It was a joy. I'm beside myself. I'm still reeling. So.
Well, congratulations on your new book too, by the way. Yes.
This is
It's beautiful. She's holding it up for me. It's gorgeous. I love the cover. We didn't even get to talk covers, guys.
Well,
both of you have gorgeous covers. I've seen.
Oh,
I went and looked.
K.M. designed them.
Oh, you're just a lady of all the talents.
I am.
She
Thank
is.
you. I'm a very busy girl. I do an awful lot of fun, fabulous things. So
That's good. It's good.
right.
Idle hands. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. We're definitely going to have you back. We would love for you to come on and hang out with us again. And we can't wait to chat with you in our behind the scenes room. So thank you. We will be joining you again in just a few minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here today for Young Adults Edition as we hung out with A.G. Howard and talked all about how to create unique retellings. We do hope you'll join us next week. We're going to be talking all about winter books as we gear up for our Christmas celebrations. We know we've got our Christmas episodes. We've got all sorts of fun, fabulous things going on. We've got Christmas Burkish craft days coming up. It's going to be amazing. And next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook.com/k.m.robinson we will be joined by the fabulous Vicki L. Weevil as we talk all about her Snow Queen retelling and my Jack Frost retelling as we celebrate books inspired by winter. We're super excited for this, and we would love for you to join us for that as well. And we do hope that you will be joining us for some of our other fun, fabulous events as well. I didn't mention it this morning, but if you guys have been following me here on social media, you know that Mermagicon is coming up in February, and they just did a Mermaid Tale giveaway if you bought your tickets to the event and to the Mermaid Ball. I hope you guys did get your tickets. I know a couple of you were going to be getting that over the weekend, so I hope I will see you there in February as we talk all about all things mermaid and my book series, The Siren Wars Saga, as I am a panelist on mermaids in the media during Mermagicon. Lots of fun going on there, mer-magicon.com. I hope you'll join us. Elle, can you hear me? That's going to be a no. I'm going to let you guys know where to find the fabulous Elle Beaumont. You can hang out with Elle over at her website, ellebeaumontbooks.com, and you can find her at Elle Beaumont Books on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, it is just at Elle Beaumont, because Twitter does not let her have all those letters to get books in there, but you can definitely go hang out with her as well as we celebrate the release of her brand new book, Veiled Allurement, which is her Cinderella retelling. And then you can come hang out with me at k.m.robinsonbooks.com, where we have world portals that are just about to be reopened with all of our fabulous new makeover stuff. There will be videos, fan art. There's going to be more interactive choose your own adventure games and lots of fabulous things going on the website. You can also hang out at K.M. Robinson Books on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, IGTV, and all those fabulous social media platforms. And stay tuned because we're going to have more information about my new release, Sugar Coated, my dark twisted Hansel and Gretel's Witch retelling, where she wasn't actually a villain. She was working with them to assassinate the Mad King, and unfortunately, things do not go quite as planned. I hope you guys will stick around and join us again on Monday for our brand new episode of Young Adult Edition, all about winter books. Until then, thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the share button on this and let us know, who do you want to see on the next episode of Young Adult Edition. Go ahead and tag your favorite authors down below. We're going to see if we can get them on in 2019. And then stay tuned because we are talking Christmas books. We're throwing our Christmas party. We're doing Christmas bookish crafts and all sorts of amazing interviews here on facebook.com/KMRobinsonBooks in the next couple of weeks. Cannot wait to see you guys. Until then, stay inspired. Bye-bye.